Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad you're here. I'm excited. We're going to plant tomatoes today. And we're going to plant them in the deeply mulched beds that I have shown you in previous videos. A little different. Let's get started. If you've been following Debbie's Back Porch in our garden, then you know that last year we had a terrible weed problem. We brought in some compost that hadn't been fully composted, and it was just full of weed seeds. And so all of our gardens were just a mess. So we did a weed treatment with horticultural vinegar and then covered the beds pretty deeply in different kinds of mulch, but mostly aged wood chips. And the wood chips were about 6 months old. And we don't have any weeds in this bed now, so we're going to plant. So, aged wood mulch is really, really good for your soil, but you don't actually want it to be right up against your plants. So I'm going to clear out a good area here so that I don't have wood mulch right up against my new plants that are working to take hold. So I'm pulling the mulch back before I dig my hole, and I want to dig the hole pretty deeply. This is a plant that I bought at a local supplier, and it's in a peat pot, which I'm not real happy about. And it's bigger than I would normally plant, but this soil is good. It's soft and easy to work. So I'm going to go ahead and dig it pretty deep. It's not going to get deep enough to bury the whole plant, which is what I would normally do, but it's deep enough to give it a good start. And I want to get as much of the mulch out of the way as I can. As wood mulch decomposes, it can tie up some of the nutrients in the soil just right on the surface, but you don't want it down below where your plant roots are trying to take hold. So we've dug it out, and I've got this peat pot, and I'm going to trim off the bottom leaves as deeply as I'm going to plant the little plant. And then we've got to deal with this peat pot. And you see the roots coming out of the bottom? This plant is actually a little root bound for what I would consider a good healthy plant. And you know, I just hate peat pots. I never start tomato plants in peat pots because they really never decompose. So once I carefully remove all of the peat pot, all of it, I'm going to fill my hole full of warm water here. I have just a little fish emulsion dissolved in here, probably about half of the recommended amount. As you know, I have my soil tested. My soil is fine. I just want to give them a little boost here, so I put a little bit of the fish emulsion in. And then I pretty carefully pull the dirt back and try not to get very much of the mulch at all. A few small pieces are fine, but I don't want any big chunks. And you want to leave the mulch at least a foot, maybe a little further, away from the base of your new plant. And you know, that's true of all plants, even your fruit trees. When you see people with wood mulch pulled right up against the trunk of the tree, that's really not a good idea. It needs to be a foot or two back. So I'm digging some soil out from under the mulch, and I'm pushing the mulch back. So that I get enough to sort of tamp the soil down around this little plant, give it a little sturdiness. Now normally I would have planted a plant much deeper, but this plant's a little bigger than I usually start with. See these little blooms? When you get plants that already have blooms on them, pull them off, don't leave them. I want a plant to be a couple feet up before I let it bloom. Give it a chance to get established, get its roots spread out before it's trying to hold up fruit. And anyway, at this point, there's nothing to pollinate those little blooms. So you just need to pull them off if they happen to be on a plant as you're transplanting it. So there you go. That's really all there is to it. I'll pull some pine straw up around close to the plant, and with the wood mulch and the pine straw, we're going to have good moisture retainage in this bed, and the pine straw will help deter any weeds from growing up close to the plant. I think this one will have a really good start. Thank you for joining us today in the garden. Hope to see you again tomorrow.